I spent an entire year taking care of my pregnant daughter-in-law. I spent an entire year taking care of my pregnant daughter-in-law. A full year sacrificing my life, my early mornings, my health. And today, because I missed my train and had to spend the night in that house again, everything I believed in for the last 12 months shattered. I walked in quietly like I always did, and then I heard it. A conversation between my son and his wife that made my legs give out. I slid down the wall, gasping for air, my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. I heard words I should never have heard. Words that changed everything. Words that destroyed everything. And the worst part, I, like an idiot, never saw the signs. Never suspected a thing. I was the perfect fool. Let me tell you how I got to that moment. How a 64-year-old widow, a hard-working, honest woman, ended up discovering the most bitter truth of her life. It all started a year ago. Stephen, my only son, called me with a worried voice. "Mom, I need you to come. Jessica is pregnant, and the doctor says she has to be on absolute bed rest. She's at risk of losing the baby. We can't afford to hire someone to take care of her, and I have to work. You're the only one I trust." Trust. That word went straight to my heart. My son trusted me. He needed me. How could I say no? I'm a mother. Mothers don't abandon their children when they need them the most. So I said yes without a second thought. "I'll come every day," I promised. "Don't you worry about a thing. I'll take care of Jessica and the house. You just focus on work." And I kept that promise. Course I did. I started getting up at 5 a.m. every single day. No exceptions. Not Sundays, not holidays, not even on days when my back hurt so much I could barely walk. I'd get up in the dark, make my coffee, prepare breakfast and lunch to bring to them, pack the food into containers, and leave my house at 6 o'clock to catch the 6:30 train. 40-minute ride, then a short walk. I'd arrive at their apartment at 8 o'clock every morning. Stephen had given me a key on the first day. "So you don't have to ring the bell and wake Jessica up," he'd said. "She needs her sleep." So I would enter silently, like a ghost on a mission. I'd put the food in the refrigerator, start the coffee maker, and begin cleaning the kitchen, which was always a mess. Dishes piled in the sink, crumbs on the counter, sticky glasses with dried juice. Stephen left for work around 8:30. He'd give me a quick kiss on the cheek. "Thanks, Mom. You're an angel." Then he'd adjust his tie and disappear out the door, leaving me alone in that messy apartment. I would clean and wait for Jessica to wake up. Sometimes she got up at 10. Sometimes at 11. It depended on her mood. When she finally appeared, she always had that same expression on her face. Annoyed, like the whole world owed her something. "Good morning," I'd say with a smile. She would barely grunt. "Carol, I'm hungry," she'd say, rubbing her belly, as if I didn't know why I was there. I'd prepare her breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh squeezed orange juice, cut fruit. I'd lay everything out nicely at the table like a little restaurant. She would eat in silence, scrolling through her phone, completely ignoring me. If something wasn't to her liking, she'd complain. "The toast is too hard. The juice is sour. The eggs are cold." I'd go back to the kitchen and fix it. No complaints. Not even a sigh. After breakfast there was always a list. "Carol, I need you to wash those curtains. Carol, clean the bathroom again, it still has spots. Carol, iron these clothes. Carol, go to the grocery store and buy these things." And I would go. Course I would. I'd carry the heavy bags, climb the stairs because the elevator was always broken, put everything away, organize the pantry. Jessica spent her time on the couch watching TV, painting her nails, talking on the phone, laughing loudly with her friends. From the kitchen, on my knees scrubbing the floor, I'd hear her saying, "Girl, you have no idea what a drag it is being stuck in here. Luckily my mother-in-law comes and does everything. It's like having free help." Free help. The first time I heard that, it cut deep. But then I made excuses for her. She's pregnant. She's stressed. She doesn't mean it like that. She's just venting to her friends. I justified everything. Absolutely everything. At lunch I would serve her again. Chicken, salad, soup, whatever I had prepared. She'd eat while criticizing. This is too salty. This is too bland. I don't like this vegetable. Stephen got home at 7 p.m. The three of us would have dinner, which really meant they sat and ate. I served, reheated, cleared and cleaned. I only sat down after they were finished, eating leftovers quickly in the kitchen because I still had to wash dishes before catching my train. I left their house at 9 p.m., took the train back and got to my apartment around 10. My feet throbbed, my back screamed, my hands burned from all the scrubbing. I would shower and collapse into bed. 4 hours later, my alarm would go off and it all started again. My friends told me I was crazy. Carol, you're killing yourself. Your son is a grown man. He can hire someone. But I defended Stephen. He's saving up for the baby. Besides, I'm the grandmother. It's my responsibility. They'd shake their heads and look at me with pity. They didn't understand a mother's love. My sister Nancy was the most direct. That girl is using you, she told me. And Stephen is letting her. They've turned you into their maid, Carol. Open your eyes. Got angry. I told her she was bitter, jealous of other people's happiness. We stopped speaking for months. Now I know Nancy was right. But I kept going. Day after day, week after week, month after month. A full year living for them, putting my own life on pause. My friends stopped inviting me out. For what? I always said no. I was too tired, too busy, too devoted to a family that, as I would discover later, only saw me as a doormat. While Jessica's belly grew, I grew too. But in fatigue, in pain, in new wrinkles that appeared every morning in the mirror. I looked at myself and no longer recognized the woman staring back at me. I had aged 10 years in one. My hands trembled in the mornings. Getting out of bed hurt. But I couldn't stop. They need me, I told myself. I was convinced I was necessary. Important. I was wrong. As the months passed, Jessica became more demanding. My tasks weren't just cooking and cleaning anymore. Now she wanted foot rubs. She wanted me to read magazines out loud while she rested. She wanted me to watch her favorite trashy TV shows with her so she wouldn't be bored. I would sit next to her on that couch with my cracked hands in my lap, pretending to be interested while she complained about her terrible life. Stephen started coming home later and later. 8 p.m., 9, sometimes 10. Lots of work, Mom, he'd say. We're on a big project. I have to put in overtime. For the baby. I believed him. Course I believed him. He was my son, the boy I had raised alone after his father died. He wouldn't lie to me. At least that's what I thought. But something didn't feel right. I couldn't explain it, but there was a strange feeling in my stomach whenever I saw him with Jessica. The way they'd share quick glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Those little secretive smiles. I shook it off. You're being paranoid, Carol. They're a happy couple expecting a baby. You're just tired. That's what I told myself. One afternoon, 2 months before everything exploded, I overheard Jessica on the phone. I was in the kitchen making dinner. She was in the living room talking loudly. Yeah, the old lady still comes every day. It's unbelievable. I swear she does everything. I don't lift a finger. Stephen says to just hang in there a little longer. That once the baby is born, we'll figure out what to do with her. Laughter. More laughter. The knife slipped in my hand. I almost cut myself. What to do with her? Those words stabbed me in the chest. But again I said nothing. I didn't walk into the living room. I didn't confront her. I convinced myself I had misheard. That exhaustion was playing tricks on me. That night when Stephen came home, I watched him differently. I searched his eyes for a trace of the boy who used to hug me and say I was the best mom in the world. All I saw was fatigue. Or maybe indifference. Mom, come in a little later tomorrow, he said. Jessica wants to sleep in. She's exhausted. Exhausted. She spent all day on the couch while I scrubbed floors on my knees. But I just nodded. Of course, son. Whatever you need. On the train ride home that night I cried. I didn't even know why exactly. I just knew something inside me was breaking. Jessica's tasks became more and more absurd. Carol washed the windows. Carol scrubbed the bathroom walls. Carol reorganized the closets. I obeyed. Always. One day while I was cleaning the kitchen, everything suddenly went black. I grabbed the counter to keep from falling. My heart raced. I was dizzy and sweating. Jessica walked in at that moment. She saw me pale and shaking. "What's wrong with you?" she asked, annoyed. "Nothing," I replied. "Just a little dizzy." "Well, have some water and get back to it." "I'm hungry." He turned around and left. "No, are you okay?" No chair pushed toward me, nothing. That night I seriously thought about quitting. I thought about telling Stephen I couldn't do it anymore, that he should hire someone, pay the $500 a week a caregiver would cost. But then I thought of the baby, my grandchild. If I left, who would take care of him? Jessica could barely take care of herself. Stephen worked all day. So I stayed. Again. 3 weeks before the due date, Stephen asked me to sleep over for a few nights. "Mom, I don't want Jessica to be alone if she goes into labor," he said. I said yes, of course. I started bringing a small overnight bag. I slept on the living room couch. Uncomfortable, narrow, too short for my body. I woke up every morning with a sore neck and aching back. One of those nights, around 2 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. As I passed their bedroom, the door was slightly ajar. I heard their voices. They were speaking in low tones, but not low enough. "It's almost time," Stephen said. "Once the baby's born and the first few weeks are over, we'll move forward with the plan. My mom won't say anything. She's too nice. Too naive." Jessica laughed. That soft, poisonous laugh. "You're right. Your mom is the most gullible person I've ever met. She believes anything." I froze in the hallway. The plan. What plan? My legs wouldn't move. My throat closed up. I backed away slowly and returned to the couch. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I lay staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it didn't mean anything, that I was overreacting. The next morning I acted normal. I made breakfast, cleaned, smiled. But inside something had shifted. I started paying attention. And what I discovered prepared me for that terrible night when I missed the train. One afternoon while cleaning, I found some papers on the table. Picked them up. They were brochures for senior living communities. Beautiful pictures, smiling gray-haired people, green gardens, friendly nurses. But I know what those places are: nursing homes. Places where families leave their old people when they don't want them at home anymore. My heart pounded. I checked the prices. Starting at $3,000 a month. 24-hour care. Shared or private rooms. Why did they have these? Heard footsteps. Jessica shuffled into the room and saw the papers in my hands. She snatched them away quickly. "Oh, that," she said with a fake smile. "A friend gave them to me. Her mom is looking for a place. I told her I'd check them out." Lie. I could see it in her eyes. But I nodded. "That's nice of you," I said calmly, though inside I was dying. That night on the couch, I didn't sleep again. The pieces in my head started coming together, forming a terrible picture. The baby was born on a Tuesday morning. I was there when Jessica's contractions began. Stephen drove us to the hospital, nervous. I sat in the back seat, holding Jessica's hand while she screamed. At the hospital, I spent 8 hours in the waiting room, pacing back and forth, praying everything would be okay. Stephen finally came out with tears in his eyes. "It's a boy, Mom. A beautiful, healthy boy." I hugged him. For a moment, I felt only love and happiness. For a moment, I forgot everything: the brochures, the whispers, the plan. They let me in to see the baby. He was perfect. Tiny, pink, eyes closed, little fists clenched. Jessica was in bed, exhausted but smiling. "Look at him, Carol," she said. "He's beautiful." I nodded, unable to speak as tears streamed down my face. Stephen put a hand on my shoulder. "Thanks for everything, Mom. We couldn't have done it without you." Those words touched my soul. For a moment I thought maybe I had been wrong about everything. Back home the first week was chaos. Jessica and the baby needed constant care. I stayed there 24/7. I woke up every 3 hours when the baby cried. I prepared the bottles, changed diapers, washed tiny clothes by hand because Jessica insisted the washing machine was too rough. Stephen went back to work 3 days after the birth. I can't take more time off, Mom. They need me at the office. So it was just Jessica, the baby, and me. Without Stephen around, I saw Jessica's real face. She no longer pretended. Carol, get me some water. Carol, the baby needs a bath. Carol, I'm hungry. Carol, clean that up. One night, I fell asleep sitting on the couch with the baby in my arms. I woke up to Jessica screaming, "You're so irresponsible. What if you had dropped him?" She snatched the baby away and locked herself in the bedroom. I stood there with empty arms, an awful feeling in my chest. Something very bad was coming. 2 weeks passed. Kept going every day. Now I had double the workload, Jessica and the baby. 2 people who depended completely on me. One Saturday afternoon, I overheard Stephen on the balcony, talking on the phone. "Yes, it's time. Everything's ready. The papers are signed. We're just waiting for the right moment to tell her. She can't do anything legally. It's all taken care of." My breathing stopped. Papers. What papers? That night, when Stephen left to go to the pharmacy, I searched. I checked drawers, files, folders. In the second drawer of the desk I found them. Legal documents. Power of attorney. Property transfer deeds. My name was on several pages. My signature was there. Except I had never signed anything. I looked closer. It was my signature. Perfectly forged. They had forged my name on documents that took my house and my savings and transferred everything to Stephen's name. The apartment my husband and I had bought with so much effort. The little money I had saved over a lifetime. Everything. The floor seemed to move. I sat down on the carpet, papers shaking in my hands. My son. My own son. Robbing me. Heard the door. Stephen was back. I quickly put everything back exactly where I'd found it and left the room. He saw me coming out. "What were you doing in there?" he asked, suspicious. "I was looking for a pen," I lied. "I have a headache." He stared at me for a long second, then nodded. "You should rest, Mom. You look terrible." "Yes," I replied. "I'll leave soon." But I didn't leave. I told him I'd stay in case the baby needed anything. The truth was, I needed time to think. That night, I lay on the couch in the dark, eyes wide open, thinking of everything I had just discovered. My entire life had been a lie. The next day I went home. My apartment was full of dust. It had been weeks since I'd really stayed there. I sat on my bed, pulled out my phone, and found my sister Nancy's number. We hadn't spoken in months. She answered on the second ring. "Carol. You were right," I said. My voice broke. "About everything." Nancy sighed. "I'm on my way," she said and hung up. She arrived an hour later. As soon as I opened the door, she hugged me. That hug shattered the last bit of strength I had. I broke down crying like a child. When I could finally speak, I told her everything. The entire year of sacrifice, the early mornings, the exhaustion, the humiliation, the phone calls I'd overheard, the brochures, the forged documents. Nancy listened silently, her jaw clenched, her eyes growing darker. When I finished, she stood up and went to the window, staring out at the street. "That son of yours," she said finally, in a controlled but furious voice, "is a snake. And that woman is worse. They're not just robbing your money, Carol. They're robbing your life. And they planned it from the beginning. From the beginning." Those words confirmed what I had only dared to suspect. The urgent call. The supposed bed rest. The convenient pregnancy. It had all been part of a plan. Nancy turned back to me. "I need you to tell me exactly what documents you saw. Where they were. What they said." I gave her every detail I could remember. She pulled out her phone and started making calls. A lawyer friend, an accountant, another number I didn't know. He took notes. When she was done, she sat in front of me. "Here's what we're going to do," she said. "Tomorrow morning we go to the lawyer. He'll check if those documents have already been filed. If they forged your signature, it's fraud. Felony. Stephen could go to jail. My heart squeezed at that thought. My son in jail. The same son I had raised alone, worked 2 jobs for, sacrificed everything for. But then I saw the papers in my mind again. My forged signature. What kind of son does that to his mother? And in the meantime, asked, my voice small. In the meantime you act normal, Nancy said. You keep going to that house like nothing happened. They can't suspect anything. We need time to gather evidence and protect what's yours. She squeezed my hands. You're going to have to be strong, Carol. You're going to have to pretend. That night Nancy stayed with me. We slept in the same bed like when we were girls. She held my hand in the dark. You're going to get through this, she whispered. I won't let them hurt you anymore. The next day we went to the lawyer. An older man with thick glasses and a desk piled with files. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes. When we finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is serious, he said. If they forged your signature to transfer your properties, we're dealing with felony fraud and grand theft, aggravated by the family relationship. But we need solid evidence. The original documents, photographs, witnesses if possible. And we must act quickly before they complete the transfers. Nancy leaned forward. What do you need us to do? He looked at me. I need you to go back to that house and take photos of those documents. Every page, every signature, every notary seal. Then send them to me. My heart pounded. Go back there. Rummage through their things again. What if they catch me? I'll go with you, Nancy said. I'll wait nearby. If anything happens, you call me. You won't be alone. The lawyer nodded. Without those photos, I can't start anything. We left with a plan. On Monday, I arrived at Stephen's as usual. Nancy stayed at a coffee shop nearby. The apartment was strangely quiet. Jessica and the baby were still asleep. Perfect. I started the coffee maker to keep up appearances, then went straight to the desk. The documents were still there. My hands trembling, I took out my phone and started photographing page after page. Every forged signature, every seal. The step froze. Jessica walked out of the bathroom and saw me standing in front of the desk, phone in hand. Her eyes narrowed. What are you doing? My mind raced. I was looking for a pen, I said, slipping the phone into my pocket. I need to write the grocery list. She stared at me. The pens are in the kitchen. They've always been in the kitchen. I forced a smile and walked out, my knees almost giving way. In the kitchen I took a deep breath. I had managed to photograph almost everything. 2 pages were missing, but going back was too risky. So I cooked, cleaned, and at 11 o'clock I told her I wasn't feeling well and needed to leave. She smiled that fake, venomous smile. Of course, Carol. Go ahead. We don't need you that much anymore anyway. We don't need you anymore. Those words were like a slap. I left that house feeling filthy. I ran to the coffee shop, showed Nancy my phone. I got them, I said. Good, she replied. Now let's go see the lawyer. The lawyer examined the photos carefully. This is enough, he finally said. We have clear evidence of forgery. Some of these documents have already been filed. The fraud is in progress. We'll file a criminal complaint and request to freeze all transactions related to your assets immediately. He looked at me. Are you prepared for this? Your son will be investigated. Possibly arrested. I swallowed hard. I'm prepared, I said, even though I wasn't. We spent the whole day in offices. The prosecutor, the courthouse, more forms, more questions. I signed papers I barely understood. I gave a formal statement. That night, exhausted, I went back home with Nancy. My phone had several missed calls. Stephen. Then messages. Mom, where are you? We need you. The baby won't stop crying. Jessica is desperate. Nancy took the phone from my hand. Don't answer. Not yet. The next day, more calls, more messages. Then Nancy's phone rang. Jessica's mother. We can fix this as a family, she said. Jessica is very stressed. It's bad for the baby. You're a grandmother. You understand. Took a breath. Tell your daughter she should have thought about family before planning to rob me and throw me in a nursing home. Silence. Then she hung up. Nancy smirked. That's my sister. Stephen was officially summoned to appear before the prosecutor. On the day of the hearing, our lawyer met us in the hallway. We have enough, he said. The accounts are frozen. The properties are protected. Now we let the law do its work. At exactly 10 o'clock, Stephen arrived with Jessica and his lawyer. He looked terrible, pale, thinner, nervous. Eyes met. Mom. His lawyer stopped him. No contact with your mother before the hearing. I gave my statement. I told the prosecutor everything. The year of sacrifice, the overheard conversations, the forged documents. He asked dates, details, names. When I finished, I walked out, feeling both empty and relieved. As I left, Stephen walked in to give his version. For a brief second, our eyes met again. There was so much I wanted to say. I said nothing. Weeks passed. The prosecutor had enough to move forward. Stephen, scared of a public trial and jail time, tried to negotiate through his lawyer. They wanted a deal. If I dropped the charges, they'd reverse everything, return my house and my money. My lawyer explained. If you accept, you get everything back faster, but there will be no criminal record for your son. If we continue, it may take longer, but he'll face full legal consequences. Nancy wanted to go all the way. He deserves it. Me. I was tired. So tired. I just wanted my life back. I told my lawyer my conditions. I want everything back. My properties, my savings, every cent. And I want Stephen to sign a written confession acknowledging what he did. I want it on paper. Stephen accepted. He only asked for one thing. 5 minutes. Alone. Talk to me. My first instinct was to refuse. But then I realized I needed closure. We met in the lawyer's conference room. The door remained slightly open. Stephen looked older, defeated. I'm sorry, Mom, he said, voice shaking. I'm so sorry for everything. I don't know what I was thinking. I know what you were thinking, I replied. You were thinking about yourself. About money. About how your mother is so stupid and so good that you could do whatever you wanted with her. He shook his head, crying. It was Jessica's idea, he said. She convinced me. She said we needed the money for the baby, that you were old and didn't need that much. That it was better to secure your grandson's future. I laughed bitterly. So it's Jessica's fault. You're just an innocent victim obeying your wife. It sounds pathetic. No. But I swear I never wanted to hurt you. We just wanted to be financially secure. The house is expensive, the baby costs a lot, my job doesn't pay enough. You have that property you barely use. We thought we could sell it and split the money. We all win. Split my money, I repeated slowly. Money I earned working 40 years. The house your father and I bought with our sweat. You wanted to win with that. Without asking me. Forging my signature. He lowered his head. The nursing home was just temporary, he muttered. Just until the baby was older. Then we were going to bring you back. Liar, I said calmly. I heard Jessica on the phone. I heard you at night. The plan was to use me until I was no longer useful and then get rid of me. Permanently. He didn't answer. He knew I was right. I took a deep breath. I gave you life, I said. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 2 jobs to feed you, to buy your clothes, to pay for your education. I never asked for anything in return. Only that you become a good man. An honest man. Failed. I raised a man capable of betraying the person who loved him most. A sob. Don't say that, Mom, please. You're going to sign the agreement, I continued. You're going to give back everything that is mine. You're going to sign the confession. After that, I don't want to see you again. He snapped his head up. What? You can't say that. I'm your son. You were my son, I replied. The day you decided my life was worth less than your comfort, you lost the right to call me Mom. I stood up and walked to the door. Mom, please. We can fix this. We can start over. No, Stephen, I said, turning one last time. Some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. This is one of them. I walked out with my head held high. All the papers were signed. My properties and savings returned. Stephen signed a document admitting he had forged my signature with the intent to steal my assets. Legally, I was safe. Emotionally, I was shattered. 2 weeks later, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was a photo album. My grandson as a newborn, then a few weeks older, sleeping, crying, smiling in his parents' arms. There was a note. Your grandson misses you. We do too. No signature. I stared at those photos for a long time. He had Stephen's eyes from when he was a boy. The same nose. The same little hands. My heart ached. That child wasn't to blame. He was innocent. But seeing him meant opening a door I wasn't ready to open. So I put the album in a drawer. Maybe someday, I thought. When he's older. When he can hear my side of the story. For now I needed to heal. Nancy visited almost every day. She suggested I move in with her. There's always a room for you, she said. You don't have to be alone. Thought about it. But my apartment with all its memories was also my space. My sanctuary. The place where I was slowly building a new life. I wasn't ready to leave it. I started doing small things for myself. Waking up without an alarm. Having breakfast on my balcony. Reading books I'd never had time to open. Walking in the park. One day, Nancy convinced me to go to a dance class for women our age. First, I resisted. I'm not that type, I said. But she insisted so much that I finally agreed. The first class was awkward. I felt clumsy, old, out of place. But the other women were kind. We were all trying. We laughed. We stumbled through the steps together. There I met Sarah, a 62-year-old widow with a story similar to mine. Her daughter and son-in-law had manipulated her for years, controlling her money, her life. One day, she'd had enough and walked away. Over coffee after class, she told me something that stayed with me. You know what the hardest part is, Carol? It's not losing your family. It's forgiving yourself for allowing so much, for being so blind. She was right. I was still carrying a lot of guilt. Guilt for not seeing the signs. For justifying everything. For letting them walk all over me. Sarah took my hand. We were victims of people who were supposed to love us, she said. Trusting them wasn't our fault. Betraying that trust was theirs. Those words freed me from a weight I hadn't even fully recognized. One Saturday morning my phone rang. Jessica. My first instinct was to reject the call. But something made me answer. Carol, she said, her voice soft, almost shy. I need to talk to you. It's important. What do you want? I asked. I want to apologize, she said. I wasn't expecting that. I stayed silent. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, she went on. What we did was unforgivable. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm ashamed. Stephen and I are in therapy trying to fix our marriage, trying to be better people. Part of that is acknowledging the harm we caused you. I didn't know what to feel. Half of me wanted to hang up. The other half wanted to keep listening. The baby. Well, he's not a baby anymore, she continued. When he sees your picture on the phone, he smiles. I think he remembers you. He misses you. Tears stung my eyes. That's not fair, I said. It's not fair to use the baby to get to me. I'm not using him, she replied quickly. I'm just telling you the truth. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to be a family again. I just needed to tell you I'm sorry. And, if you ever want to see your grandson, the door is open. No strings attached. Hung up. I sat staring at the wall, the phone in my hand. Nancy came in and noticed my face. What happened? I told her. She frowned. I don't trust that woman, she said. It could be another manipulation. I don't trust her either, I admitted. But she sounded different. Good actresses always do, Nancy replied. I didn't answer. My heart was torn. Later I told Sarah. She gave me simple advice. Ask yourself what you want, Not what you're supposed to want. I thought about that for a week. Finally, I knew. I wanted to know my grandson. But I would never again sacrifice myself to please his parents. So I called Jessica back. I want to see my grandson, I said. But on my terms. Of course, she replied quickly. Whatever you need. I'll come once a week on Sunday afternoons for 2 hours. I arrive, I spend time with him, and I leave. I will not cook. I will not clean. I will not help around the house. I'm his grandmother, not your maid. If I sense manipulation or disrespect, I will leave and I won't come back. Do you understand? There was a pause. I understand, she said quietly. We agree. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for giving us this chance. I'm not doing it for you, I said. I'm doing it for him. That first Sunday, I dressed carefully. Not for them, for myself. I wanted to feel dignified, strong. I wanted my grandson to see a grandmother who respected herself. When I rang the doorbell, Stephen opened. He looked nervous. Mom, he said softly. Come in. The apartment was cleaner, more organized. Jessica was in the living room, holding the baby. He had grown so much. I walked toward him. Hello, my love, I whispered. Do you remember me? He stared at me for a moment, then smiled. Big, pure smile. In that instant, I knew I had made the right decision. Jessica's hands trembled slightly as she handed him to me. I held him close, breathing in that baby smell, feeling his little hand grab my finger. Warmth spread through my chest. Stephen and Jessica sat on the other sofa, quiet, unsure. You can sit, I said, still focused on the baby. It's your house. We spent those 2 hours like that, talking a little. Mostly just me and my grandson, discovering each other again. When it was time to leave, I stood up. I'll be back next Sunday, I said. Same time. They nodded gratefully. Weeks turned into months. Sundays became my favorite day. Not because of Stephen or Jessica, but because of those precious 2 hours with my grandson. I saw him roll over, sit, crawl, babble. At around 8 months, he started crawling straight toward me the second I walked in. Stephen and Jessica respected my boundaries. No chores. No, can you just... I watched them learn to be parents without leaning on me as a crutch. They worked as a team. They woke up at night. They cooked, cleaned, managed their own life. Slowly, a different kind of relationship started to form. Not the blind, sacrificial love I had before. A love with boundaries. With self-respect. One day, Jessica gave me a quiet, shaky smile. Thank you for not giving up on us, she said. You could have cut us out completely. You would have been right to do it. But you stayed for him. And you gave us a chance to be better. Stephen added. You taught us that real love has dignity. That forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Or letting people hurt you again. I smiled softly. Took me long enough to learn that, I said. But better late than never. That night when I got home, I looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, I liked the woman I saw. I was still 64. Still a widow. Still a mother who had been betrayed. But I was also something else now. A woman who had chosen herself. A grandmother on her own terms. The Carol who missed her train that terrible night. And in doing so, found her way back to herself. My name is Henry Miller. I'm 67 years old, and last year I did something people say fathers don't do. I walked away from my own sons. My name is Henry Miller. I'm 67 years old, retired, widowed, and according to my 2 sons, useless. At least, that's what I heard them say the night everything changed. For most of my life, I prided myself on being a good father. Not perfect, but good enough. I worked hard, paid the bills, never let my family go without. I believed that if I sacrificed, if I gave my children everything I never had, they would grow up to be decent men. I was wrong. Somewhere along the way, my sacrifices turned into their sense of entitlement. I lost my wife, Linda, 5 years ago. 42 years of marriage. One day she was there, nagging me about leaving my socks on the floor. The next day, a heart attack took her while she slept on the couch. Just like that, my world went silent. For months, I wandered around the house like a ghost. Her mug still in the cupboard. Her perfume bottle in the bathroom. The dent on her side of the bed. I couldn't bring myself to move anything. Our 2 sons, Michael and David, came to stay with me for a while after the funeral. At least that's what they said. "Dad, you shouldn't be alone right now," Michael told me, patting my shoulder. "Let us stay with you. We'll help out, okay?" "Yeah," David added. "We'll take care of you." Sounded comforting. A widower being taken care of by his sons. That's how it's supposed to be, right? Except that's not what happened. Michael was 34 back then. Recently divorced, always complaining about how his ex-wife ruined his life. He moved into his old room and never left it unless it was for food or his phone charger. He said he was looking for a job, but most of the time I saw the glow of video games under his door at 2 a.m. David was 30. He'd quit his job to focus on his music, which really meant staying out late, waking up past noon, and posting pictures on social media with inspirational quotes about chasing your dreams. I didn't judge them at first. Grief affects everyone differently, I thought. They lost their mother. Maybe they needed time. So I cooked, cleaned. I did the grocery shopping. I paid the electric bill, the heating, the internet. Their laundry magically washed and folded itself. The fridge filled itself. Or at least that's how it must have looked to them. 3 months passed. Then 6 months. Then a year. Nothing changed. If anything, they got more comfortable. "Dad, can you give me your Netflix password?" "Dad, the Wi-Fi is slow, can you upgrade it?" "Dad, I'm short this month, can you cover my phone bill?" "Dad, I'll pay you back when things get better." Things never got better. Michael went to a couple of interviews, came back complaining. "They want experience I don't have. It's ridiculous." David played at small bars now and then, brought home a few crumpled bills and called it investing in my art. Meanwhile, my pension paid for. 3 adults. I started dipping into my savings. Not for trips. Not for hobbies. Not for anything fun. For takeout and overdue credit cards that couldn't wait. "Dad, they're charging me fees." One day, my old friend George invited me for coffee. "You look tired, Henry," he said, stirring his cup. "You still not sleeping?" "I sleep," I said. "Just not well." "How are the boys?" I hesitated. "They're around," I said carefully. George raised an eyebrow. "Around?" I sighed. "They moved back home after Linda died. Said they wanted to help. But, well, you know how it goes." George didn't smile. "No, I don't," he said plainly. "My kids have their own lives. They visit, they help out, but they don't live off me." His words stung. "They're struggling," I defended my sons. "The economy, the divorce, the music." George leaned forward. "Henry, there's a difference between helping your kids through a hard time and letting them park their behinds on your couch forever. You worked your whole life. You're supposed to rest now, not become their personal ATM and maid." I left that cafe annoyed. Who was he to judge my family? He didn't understand. He'd always been too strict with his kids. But that night, as I scrubbed pots in the sink while Michael shouted at his game in the living room, and David left crumbs everywhere from the pizza I paid for, George's words echoed in my head. "You're supposed to rest now, not become their personal ATM and maid." I looked at my reflection in the kitchen window. I looked old, tired, smaller somehow. When did I become a background character in my own home? It wasn't one big moment that changed everything. It was a series of small, humiliating ones. The day Michael asked me for money, just until the end of the month, and I had to say, "I don't have it." He stared at me like I was lying. "What do you mean you don't have it? You've got savings." "Savings are for emergencies," I replied. "And for when I can't take care of myself anymore." He scoffed. "You're overreacting. It's just a few hundred, Dad." He got the money anyway. I went to the bank and withdrew it. The night David came home drunk at 3 a.m., tripped over the coffee table, and broke the lamp Linda loved. He laughed. It was ugly anyway. I stood there, holding the broken pieces in my hands, feeling something in me crack. The afternoon I asked them to help me move some boxes from the basement. Michael said he was busy on his phone. David said his back hurt. So I went down alone, missed a step and fell. I lay there for a moment, stunned, my hip throbbing. Nobody came. I got up by myself, gripping the railing, and carried the boxes up, one by one. When I came back into the living room, sweaty and pale, Michael glanced up. "You all right?" he asked without really looking. "I'm fine," I lied. He nodded and went back to his screen. Linda would have cried if she'd seen what her boys had become. But the night that truly broke me was a Tuesday. Ordinary quiet. It was raining. Michael thought I was asleep. David thought I'd gone to my room. Had actually. But I realized I'd left my glasses in the kitchen, so I went back downstairs in my slippers. Their voices stopped me in the hallway. They were in the living room. TV was on, but the sound was low. I heard them talking over it. "We can't keep living like this," Michael said. "I'm almost 36. This is pathetic." "So get a job," David replied. "Don't lecture me. Your music career isn't exactly paying the bills." David snorted. "Relax. Dad's not going anywhere. He'll keep covering things." Froze. "Yeah, for how long?" Michael said. "He's 67. He's not getting younger. What happens when he gets sick or falls and can't do anything? We'll be stuck taking care of him in this old house with no money." David was quiet for a moment. "We could sell the house," he said slowly. "Split the money. Put him somewhere with nurses and stuff." My ears rang. "I've looked into it," Michael said. "Those places are expensive. Unless we sell this place or use his savings, we can't afford it. But if we wait too long and he loses his mind or something, we can't sign for him. We should talk to him now. Get him to plan his future." They both laughed. "Plan his future," David repeated. "Nice way to say sign your life away, old man." My hand slipped from the wall. I barely caught myself. I wanted to storm into the room and shout, "I heard you. I heard everything. How dare you?" But I didn't. Instead, I turned, climbed back up the stairs one slow step at a time, and sat on my bed in the dark. My sons. My boys. The same boys whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose homework I helped with, whose little heads rested on my chest when they had nightmares. They were planning where to put me when I became inconvenient, like a piece of furniture that no longer matched the decor. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the rain hitting the roof, my heart breaking in quiet pieces. Around 3 a.m. I stood up, walked to the bathroom, and looked at myself in the mirror. White hair. Lines around my mouth. Tired eyes. "Is this it, Henry?" I asked my reflection. "Is this how your story ends? Waiting for your sons to decide where to store you?" The answer came from a place inside me I hadn't heard in years. Whoa. The next morning I made breakfast like usual. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee. Michael came down first. "Morning," he said, yawning, scratching his chest. "Morning," I replied calmly. "Eat before it gets cold." David came down later, hair a mess, grabbing his mug. "Coffee, please," he mumbled. I poured it for him. We ate in silence. My chest hurt, but not from sadness anymore. From clarity. When they were done, Michael stood up. "I'm going out later to meet a friend," he said. "Might need some cash for gas." "We'll talk about that tonight," I answered. He frowned. "What's there to talk about?" "We'll talk tonight," I repeated, my tone leaving no room for argument. He shrugged and left. David grabbed a piece of toast, kissed the air near my cheek. "You're the best, Dad," he said. "Don't know what we'd do without you." I smiled faintly. You'll find out, I thought. That afternoon I went to the bank. I sat across from the advisor, an older woman with kind eyes. "How can I help you, Mr. Miller?" she asked. Took a breath. "I want to know exactly how much I have," I said. "All of it. Savings, checking, retirement accounts. Everything." I want to make some changes. We spent 2 hours going over documents. My savings were smaller than they should have been. Years of little withdrawals here and there for temporary help had added up. Still there was enough. Enough for a modest life somewhere else. Would you like to add any authorized users to your accounts? She asked. Smiled. No, I replied. Actually, I'd like to remove any existing ones. Michael's name had been on one of my accounts for emergencies. I removed it. I also asked about my house. It was fully paid off. The title was in my name only. You've got options, the advisor said. You could sell and downsize. Or you could take a reverse mortgage. No loans, I interrupted. If I sell, I sell. If I stay, I stay. I left the bank with a folder of papers and a clearer head. Then I went for a walk. It was the first time in a long while I walked without a grocery list or an errand. Just me. And a decision forming in my chest. The next day I went to see a real estate agent. I'd like to sell my house, I said. She blinked. Okay. Are you downsizing? Moving closer to family? I almost laughed. Something like that, I said. The market was good. I could get a fair price. Enough to buy a small place elsewhere and still have a cushion. How soon do you want to list it? She asked. As soon as possible. Will your family be involved in the process? Pause. No, I said. This is my decision. We set a date for photos and viewings. I told her to contact me on my cell only. Then I went home and started sorting things. Not in a dramatic, impulsive way. In a quiet, methodical way. Linda's jewelry went into a small box I put in my bedroom closet. Her photo albums I carefully packed in a suitcase. Old clothes I no longer wore, I bagged for donation. I kept it all hidden. To my sons the house looked the same. But to me it was already half gone. Over the following weeks, strangers walked through my house, commenting on the light, the wooden floors, the size of the backyard. Why are you selling? One couple asked me. Shrugged. It's too big for me now, I said. Time for a change. We got an offer quickly. Good one. Took it. We set a closing date. The agent asked if my sons would be present. No, I repeated. They don't live here on paper. She nodded, not asking more. I signed the documents. The house was no longer mine. But the money was. Enough to start over. All I needed now was the courage. The night before the move, I made my last dinner in that kitchen. Spaghetti. Linda's recipe. Michael and David ate like they always did. Fast, distracted, scrolling on their phones. This is good, Dad, David said with his mouth full. You should make it more often. I won't, I said quietly. Ha? He asked, looking up. Nothing, I replied. After dinner, I washed the dishes slowly, memorizing the feel of the sink, the sound of the faucet, the view from the window. This had been my life. My battlefield. My shelter. It was time to leave it behind. The next morning I woke up at 5 a.m. my usual time. I made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table. Took out 2 envelopes I had prepared the night before. One for Michael. One for David. Inside each was letter. Photocopy of my house sale. A bank statement showing that all my accounts were in my name only. And a simple phrase underlined in red. You are adults. Live like it. I left Michael's envelope on the kitchen table, right where he usually put his cereal bowl. David's on the arm of the couch where he liked to nap. I took my suitcase, clothes, toiletries, Linda's albums, her jewelry, and my small backpack with my documents and cash. I walked through the house one last time. Her bedroom. The boys' rooms. The hallway where they'd raced as kids. The bathroom where Linda had sung while doing her makeup. I placed my hand on the front door. Goodbye, I whispered. Thank you for the years. It's time. And then I left. I didn't go far at first. I moved to a small coastal town 2 hours away. Nothing fancy. 1-bedroom apartment. Close to a grocery store and a park. When I arrived, the landlord handed me the keys. You got anyone helping you move in? He asked. No, I said. Just me. He offered to help carry the heavier boxes. Accepted. That night, I sat on my new sofa, bought secondhand, ate a microwave dinner, and listened to the waves in the distance. What I felt was not fear, not guilt, relief. For the first time in years, no one would shout from another room, "Dad, can you bring me? Dad, can you pay for?" The silence was strange. But it was mine. The calls started around noon. First Michael. Then David. At least 10 missed calls by the time I checked my phone. Then the messages. "Dad, where are you? What is this? What did you do? Tell me this is a joke. Call me back now. You sold the house? Are you crazy? You can't do this to us." I read them all sitting on my new balcony, a cup of coffee in hand. I typed one single reply in the family group chat. "I have moved. I'm safe. The house was mine and I chose to sell it. You are both adults and capable of working. I will no longer support you financially. Do not come looking for me without jobs and a plan for your own lives." I stared at the message for a second, then hit send. Immediately dots appeared. Michael. "Dad, you can't just disappear like this. Where are we supposed to go?" David. "We have nowhere to sleep. All our stuff is here. You blindsided us." I responded. "You have something I didn't have at your age. Time, health, and a world full of opportunities. Start there." Then I turned my phone off. Cruel. Maybe. Necessary. Absolutely. The first weeks in my new town were strange. Felt guilty sometimes. I'd wake up at night thinking, what if they really end up on the street? What if something bad happens to them? What kind of father walks away? But then I'd remember their voices. "We should get him to sign everything now before he loses his mind. Put him somewhere with nurses and stuff." Those weren't the words of sons terrified of losing their dad. Those were the words of men terrified of losing their convenience. I had given them decades of my life. I wasn't going to give them the rest. In my new town I became Henry, the polite older man who just moved in. I shopped at the same grocery store every Tuesday. The cashier, a woman in her 50s named Maria, started chatting with me. "Living alone?" she asked one day. "Yes," I answered. "Kids?" "2 sons." "Do they visit?" I smiled sadly. "Not yet." She didn't pry. I joined a seniors center down the street. They had chess afternoons, low-impact exercise classes, and a weekly men's breakfast, where retirees complained about their backs and told the same jokes over and over. Felt good. One of the men, Robert, ran a small handyman business. Changing light bulbs, fixing leaky faucets, assembling flat-pack furniture for people who couldn't do it themselves. "Need extra hands?" I asked him one day. "You want to work?" he asked, surprised. "Just a few hours here and there," I said. "I like feeling useful." He grinned. "You're hired, old man." And so at 67 I went back to work. Not because I needed the money but because I needed purpose. Fixed things. Carried small boxes. I listened to people's stories. None of them expected me to pay their phone bills. After about 6 months I turned my phone on again. Not my new number. My old one. Hundreds of messages flooded in. Emails. Voicemails. Missed call records. Most were from the first few weeks after I left. Angry, panicked, accusing. Then they slowly faded. The last message from Michael about 3 months in said, "Fine. Do whatever you want. We'll figure our lives out without you." The last from David. "I get it now. I'm not saying thank you. Not yet. But I get it." I sat there, phone in hand, heart beating fast. They hadn't died. They hadn't been swallowed by a black hole. They were figuring their lives out. But a year passed. On the morning of my 68th birthday, I woke up to the sound of seagulls outside my window and the sun warming my pillow. I made myself pancakes, badly. Linda had always been the cook. Mine were too thick and a little burnt, but I ate them anyway. Around 10 a.m., there was a knock at my door. Nobody ever knocked without calling first. My few new friends always texted. I opened the door cautiously. Michael and David stood there. Older, thinner, dark circles under their eyes. Wearing cheap suits that didn't fit quite right. For a second none of us spoke. Then Michael cleared his throat. "Hi, Dad," he said softly. David held up a small grocery bag. "We brought cake," he mumbled. "Or something that looks like cake." I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. They walked into my small living room, looking around. "Wow," David said quietly. "This is nice." It was modest. A sofa, a coffee table, a bookshelf, Linda's framed photo on the wall, one arm around me, laughing at something the photographer said. Michael's eyes lingered on her face. "You brought Mom here," he whispered. "Of course," I replied. "She goes where I go." We sat down. They placed a lopsided supermarket cake on the table. No candles. Michael pulled out a plastic knife. "We didn't know your exact address," he said. "We asked at the seniors center. They pointed us here." "You've been looking for me," I said. "For a while," David answered. "But not like before. Not with anger. More like, we were waiting until we had something to show you." I raised an eyebrow. "Show me." Michael took a deep breath. "I got a job," he said. "Not my dream job, but a job. Customer support. Long hours, annoying people, low pay. But I pay my own rent now. I share an apartment with roommates." David smiled weakly. "I teach guitar," he said. "Kids. Mostly. At a community center. And I play at a bar on weekends. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. I have my own place too. A tiny studio, but it's mine." Something warm moved in my chest. "You're working," I said. "We are," Michael nodded. "We cook our own meals. Wash our own clothes. Pay our own bills. It's hard." "Welcome to adulthood," I replied. They both laughed, a little bitterly, a little proudly. There was a silence. Then David said, "We hated you for a while, you know." He nodded. "I figured." "We felt betrayed," Michael added. "Like you picked your freedom over your family. Like you just discarded us." "I know," I said quietly. He looked at me, eyes shiny. "But then, a month in, when the landlord asked for rent and the refrigerator was empty and no one was there to pick up the slack, we realized something. We had discarded you long before you left." His voice broke. "We turned you into a servant," he continued. "An ATM. Background character. We acted like the house and your money were already ours. Like your future was ours to decide. When you cut us off, you didn't abandon us. You just stopped letting us abuse you." David nodded, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "You gave us what we should have had years ago, a reason to grow up." My throat tightened. I had imagined this moment so many times. Sometimes with shouting. Sometimes with cold shoulders. Never like this. "Why did you come today?" I asked. "After all this time." Michael took something from his pocket. A folded paper. He slid it across the table. I unfolded it. It was a simple note. "Happy 68th birthday, Dad. We can't ask you to forgive us. We can't undo what we planned or how we treated you. We can only say this. Thank you for walking away when you did. Saved us. And if you ever want us in your life again, we will be there. The sons. Not parasites." Michael and David. I looked at them. Two grown men. Not overgrown boys. Men who had finally fallen flat on their faces. And gotten back up on their own. Tears blurred my vision. "I didn't walk away to punish you," I said. "I walked away to save what was left of my self-respect. To stop watching the boys I loved turn into men I couldn't respect." "We know," Michael whispered. "I will never let you treat me like that again," I continued. "No more yelling from other rooms. No more bills slipped under my plate. No more conversations about where to put me when I'm inconvenient." They both flinched. "We were monsters," David murmured. "You were scared and selfish," I corrected. Like I was scared and cowardly for not saying no for so many years. But we're not those people anymore. Not if we choose not to be. We sat there, 3 men in a small living room, our shared past heavy between us. Then I said, I can't forget what you said, what you planned. But I don't want to die without knowing my sons as the men you can be. So here's the deal, we start over. Slowly. On my terms. They nodded eagerly. Anything, Michael said. Whatever you need. We'll visit, David added. Call. Help. Not because we expect anything in return. Just because. You're our father. And if one day, I said, I do need help, real help, not carrying groceries for you, I hope you'll be there. Not out of obligation. Out of love. Michael reached for my hand. We will, he said. I swear. For the first time in years I believed him. Later, after 2 sweet cake and bad instant coffee, we walked to the beach. Michael told me about the customers who yelled at him on the phone. David told me about the little boy who hugged his guitar after his first lesson. They asked me about my work with Robert, about the senior center, about Maria at the grocery store. Sounds like you've got a life here, David said. I do, I replied. We'd like to be part of it, Michael added. If you'll have us. I looked at the ocean. The waves rolled in, steady and patient. We'll see, I said. We'll take it one Sunday at a time. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did. Selling the house. Leaving without warning. Cutting my sons off. They expect me to say yes. You don't. I regret not setting boundaries sooner. I regret the years I spent cleaning up grown men's messes while my own body aged and my own soul shrank. But walking away. That saved all 3 of us. My sons learned to stand on their own feet. I learned that love without respect is just servitude dressed up in pretty words. If you're an older parent listening to this, exhausted, used, invisible in your own home, let me tell you something. You are not a burden. You are not a wallet with legs. You are not an extra in the movie of your children's lives. You are a human being. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose peace over obligation. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Not forever. Not from your children. But from the version of yourself who believes you don't deserve more. My name is Henry Miller. I'm 68 now. And for the first time in a long time, I'm proud to be the father of my sons. And proud to be the man who finally chose himself.